How you doing, world? It's Lee Johnson, Real Man, Real Stories podcast, checking in with you with another episode of Car Questions. And the question that we have for today is, what is convict leasing? And what does convict leasing have to do with the mass deportation and Black Americans of today? And we're going to explain that to you right now. So the first thing we're going to break down is, what is convict leasing? Convict leasing is what it sounds like. It's the state leasing their convicts to major corporations or companies for slave labor. No, the convict doesn't make any money. All the money goes to the state and the corporation. So the first state that actually be applying in this was 1844, and it was actually Louisiana. No doubt always going to be the South. The actual first recorded case was in 1865, and that was to a guy named William Fort, and he was sold some convict leasing contracts for railroad system from Georgia and Alabama. So convict leasing basically is taking a prisoner and making him work for a corporation or a company. No rights, no money, no paid. He can work as long as they want him to work, and he can't quit when he wants to quit. It could be mine shafts, it could be construction work, it could be some of the most dangerous work. A lot of people died during these years of convict leasing. I remind you, convict leasing went on legally from 1865 to 1941, when FDR finally cut it out of law. In 1942, the very last slave was released. His name was Alfred Irving. He was held captive as a slave for 4 years under debt peonage. Makes no sense. Peace. But we're going too far ahead. Let's go on and rewind back. Now, part of convict leasing was also black codes. Black codes was adopted laws in the southern states, basically saying if you're a black person, you're walking around, you don't have proof of employment, or you're walking around at the wrong side of town in their eyesight, you can get locked up for vagrancy, or they can just lock you up for anything they want, and that will put you in to the penal system, and now you're eligible for convict leasing. So that is another form of keeping a group of people that were slaves into the same system of slave labor. Now let's tie all this stuff together with the mass deportation what's going on right now. So the mass deportation groups usually is ethnic groups of Hispanic nature, South America, Mexico, El Salvador, Colombia, and those are the people targeted for mass deportation. They're going into schools, they're pulling people in train stations, they're getting people that's lived here their whole life, sending them back to a country they've never been at. And a lot of these migrant workers worked in factories, farms, construction jobs that most Americans were not doing, because maybe they deemed it wasn't paying enough to pay their bills. And 9 times out of 10, that was the case. It wasn't deemed enough to pay their bills. So they passed it on down to an illegal alien, somebody, and they paid them usually cheaper than the average American citizen. So it saved the corporation money, but it destroyed cultures and destroyed races. So now with the mass deportations, you have farmlands with nobody to farm them. You have a lot of construction sites with no workers that's going to attend. You have factories. You have all kinds of work, yard work that people are not going to show up to. So that's going to drive those prices up, but we're going too far ahead. Now, how does that coincide with Black American people? So let's tie in convict leasing with mass deportation. Now, mass deportation left open mass number of jobs available that most likely underpaid and you cannot pay your bills with, and United States citizens are not going to do, or not even qualified to do, to be honest with you, have not a clue what to do. So who is the next in line to do these jobs? The penal system. In 1898, 73% of Alabama's revenue come from convict leasing. And who's majority in the penal system in this country? The minorities, blacks and Hispanics. So who is going to do this work that nobody else is either qualified or not going to get paid enough to do? The prisoners. So the prisoners is going to do all this work without getting paid to reenact another form of slave society. So don't get fooled of all the DEIs getting taken away, and don't get fooled of Black History Month getting taken away, Jewish History Month taken away, all these months that has nothing to do with white history being taken away. It is all a mask, because they're trying to get your 14th Amendment. They're trying to get your citizenship. They're trying to get your natural right citizenship in this country. So you can just be walking down the street and all of a sudden, what are you doing on the side of town? It's time for you to go to jail. It's time for you to do your time. And it's time for you to work for corporations like GE, Walmart, railroads, mining corporations. All these corporations are going to look into this, and they're going to use this to think it's going to boost the economy. They think it's going to save the United States by reenacting slavery all over again. But let me tell you something, people. Nothing is going to save our economy. The misuse of our dollar, this misuse of our power and might, and outsourcing everything, is the major destruction of this country. It's the Ponzi scheme itself. So, Black people, ethnic people, beware of what's coming. Mass deportation, somebody got to do the work. And you know who is going to do the work. Watch out. Might reenact black codes. But watch out for convict leasing, one of the highest forms of legal slavery in this country. Real man, real stories. Checking in and checking out. Keep up the good fight. Peace.